You ever have one of those days where the sheriff pulls up in your driveway, the horses freeze mid-chew, and you just know the universe is about to hit play on a brand new episode of Suburban Circus? Because, buddy, let me tell you, when Sheriff Barnes parked at the end of my gravel drive that morning, even the birds stopped singing. Karen was already there, arms folded, lips trembling. With victory, hollering that I was illegally operating a farm on HOA property. No joke, she sounded like she was auditioning for Judge Judy. The sheriff just sighed, muttered something about again. With this, and I handed him the thick leather-bound deed my uncle left me, dated 1975. He opened it up, took one look at the map, and busted out laughing so hard he had to lean against his cruiser. That laugh, loud, honest, echoing down the valley, cut through months of fake smiles, HOA rules, and all the nonsense that had ruled my world since I moved in. But the wildest part? This wasn't even the craziest thing Karen had pulled. No, this was just the grand finale. See, it started my very first week in Pine Hollow, back when the fence started talking. The ranch has been in my family for generations, hugging those golden hills, horses breathing in the morning mist, boots thumping soft dirt, the smell of pine and old sweat. When Uncle Hank died, he left me this place with a single note. Don't let anyone tell you where your fence ends. At first, I thought it was sentimental. That was before I found the laminated letter pinned to my gate. Notice of violation. Unauthorized livestock. Non-compliant fencing. Unapproved land use. HOA Regulation 4.7. There I was, coffee in hand, staring at this paper flapping in the wind, wondering how an HOA could even exist on a ranch older than their cul-de-sac. And that's when I met her, Karen Beaumont, self-declared president of the Meadow Ridge HOA, standing by the road in a floral blouse, clutching a gold-lettered clipboard like it was a badge. She smiled like a realtor who already knows your credit score. Good morning, she chirped. I'm just doing a compliance check. We need to talk about your animals. I looked past her at my horses, Doc and June, grazing, tails flicking lazily. Animals, I said. You mean my horses? She nodded, real sharp. Yes, we don't allow livestock within community limits. So I set my mug on the fence post and told her, this isn't your community. This is my ranch. Been here since before your HOA existed. She smirked the way only a person drunk on tiny power can. Not anymore. We voted last month to extend our jurisdiction. I'll never forget the absurdity. Imagine a handful of neighbors just voting to absorb your land, like it's a bake sale decision. I laughed, but she handed me a pamphlet labeled New Member Orientation and sauntered off, threatening fines for noncompliance. That's when I realized she truly believed she owned my land. In the days that followed, things got weird. Somebody nailed a new sign next to my mailbox. LUT 42B, subject to HOA rules. I caught a guy pacing my fence line with a tape measure, muttering about boundaries. Then Karen managed to find my email, still don't know how, and sent me a mandatory invitation to the next HOA meeting. Now, her living room looked like a cross between a bake sale and a kangaroo court. Cookies, bottled water, and a poster board that read, Ranch Aesthetic Concerns. Karen was flanked by Roger the realtor, Diane the decorator, and Bob, who was apparently on binocular duty. They talked about my unsightly fencing and dust emissions from horse activity, like I was running a landfill. I asked if any of them knew where their HOA actually ended. Karen snapped back. Boundaries are flexible depending on environmental impact. I nearly choked trying not to laugh. They voted, without me, on a $1,500 fine. I just sipped my water, quietly recording the whole circus on my phone. When she tried to smile and say, Welcome to Meadow Ridge, Mr. Cole, I told her, You'll be hearing from the county before I hear from your HOA. Again, that night, I dug through my uncle's old files and found the land survey stamped by the county, 1975. The HOA line stopped 200 feet short of my fence. Wasn't even close. I made copies, sealed them, and decided to let Karen dig her own hole. By sunrise, she'd taped a fresh violation to my gate for unauthorized outdoor structures. Remove the barn by Friday, or else. I read that notice leaning on my porch rail, horses snorting like they were in on the joke. I didn't respond. Sometimes silence is the loudest weapon. Over the week, she went from paper to Performance, standing out there with a measuring wheel, yelling to the neighbors, laws are laws. Most folks nodded politely, but didn't meet her eyes. Thing is, I'd already filed a harassment notice with the county and scheduled a visit from an agricultural inspector. I wanted this showdown public, broad daylight, plenty of witnesses. Still, even I didn't expect just how far Karen would go. The HOA circus marched up my driveway on Saturday, Karen leading, clipboard flashing, sun hat flapping, her committee in tow. I was fixing a stall latch, watching them cross my property line like it was the Oscars. Good morning, Karen bellowed. We're here for a scheduled review of your property compliance. I just asked, scheduled by who? She grinned, the HOA. We need to assess environmental and aesthetic impact. Operations, I said, pointing at the horses munching hay. Roger started taking photos like he was at a crime scene. Diane shook her head, scribbling notes about unapproved colors. Bob tried to peek in my tack shed. Karen read off a list. Outdated fencing, excessive dust, unauthorized structures. I pointed at the barn. Unauthorized according to who? Community charter, she snapped. I just shrugged. That doesn't apply here. That rattled her. She declared another $1,500 fine, so I started recording on my phone. You're not allowed to record. HOA business, she shouted. This is an HOA business, I replied. This is private property. Roger whispered maybe they should leave, but Karen wouldn't budge. We'll just mail the fine. That was the last straw for me. I gathered up every email, violation notice, and screenshot, assembled a binder so thick it could stop a bullet. But I waited, let her show her entire playbook. Her next email? Capital letters, fake legalese, 72-hour livestock deadline. I replied, Karen, I don't live in your HOA. She fired back. That's for the board to determine. I laughed so hard my ribs ached. The very next day, 3 neighbors, strangers, showed up, clutching a petition to cooperate for community harmony. Greg, the quietest one, mumbled. She said you'd get sued if you didn't sign. I asked if he'd ever read the charter. He shook his head. Enjoy your Saturday, I said, and closed the gate. By Monday, a second notice showed up. Further noncompliance may result in law enforcement intervention. That made me smile, because I knew once she called the sheriff, the whole story would end, publicly, permanently, and with laughter. And I was right. Inspection day. Animal control rolled up. 2 officers, tired and unimpressed. Karen, sunglasses on, waving a folder of complaints, declared, there are livestock odors and health hazards. The officer looked at my horses, then at me. Where's the hazard? Karen pointed dramatically at a pile of manure. Violation of sanitation standards. The officer asked, is this an active farm? I handed him my agricultural permit. He whistled, this is valid. Karen shrieked, it doesn't matter. Our HOA voted. He said gently, HOAs don't overrule county AG zones. Karen's jaw dropped. I offered everyone coffee. Only the younger officer accepted. Karen stormed off, muttering about new amendments. That night, she mass emailed the whole neighborhood, accusing animal control of conflict of interest. Even Roger texted me, sorry man, she's gone too far. That's when I knew she was running out of rope. But pride's a funny thing. It'll drive people to dig new holes just to avoid climbing out of the old ones. The next day, she hammered, HOA zone, no trespassing signs into my side of the fence. I watched her, arms crossed. You know you're trespassing, right? She tried to look dignified, mumbled something about shared borders, and scurried off. When the sheriff came again, summoned by yet another HOA complaint, it played out like a sitcom. Karen tried to show photos of my horses trespassing. The sheriff looked at the pictures, then at me, then at her, and finally said, these are horses inside a fence. Karen protested the fence itself was illegal. He rolled his eyes. You can't just declare someone else's fence illegal. She argued, the HOA voted. He told her, HOA votes don't overrule property deeds. And then he laughed, big, booming, honest. The crowd that had gathered started laughing, too. Word spread like wildfire. Folks started calling my ranch Horse Crime Central on Facebook. Even I found it hilarious. But underneath, there was something serious, a lesson about the kind of trouble that happens when people mistake control for respect. And you know what? After all the noise, the fines, the meetings, and the standoffs. All it took was a little patience, a binder full of paperwork, and the truth. The county board stamped it, the sheriff signed off, and the war was over. Karen packed up and or her car crawling past the gate. But they're gone now, replaced by wildflowers and the sound of horses breathing in the golden light. The story gets told at the diner, folks laughing, calling it the rancher who broke the HOA. But I just smile, because it wasn't about outsmarting anyone. It was about outlasting them. The land always wins in the end. And honestly, story about small-town power and stubborn neighbors. And hey, if you stuck around for all this, hit subscribe, share your wildest HOA tales, and let's keep the laughs and the peace rolling.